much do you actually see, and what do you really understand? I often ask myself this question, especially after a moment of clarity, when once again I realize that I am stuck in tunnel vision mode. Many of you know that I'm somewhat of a go-getter. I like to be busy and to get things done. I can easily become too focused on the next task at hand and forget to pay attention to other things that are going on around me in the world. Fortunately, we are blessed by the efficiency of technology, particularly as it helps us stay easily connected to other people and issues occurring all over the world. But even still, when it comes to people who are outside of our circle of friends, outside of our own communities, maybe even outside of our own culture, people who are different from us, how much do we actually see, and what do we really understand? How do our judgments, both good and bad, about other people cloud our vision or limit our understanding? Do we jump to conclusions based upon what we know or by what we think that we know? Aren't we really susceptible to showing partiality and favoritism, even when we are well-intentioned? Let me give you an example of how easy it is to fall short. Last Sunday, after I got home from the picnic, I remembered that I had forgotten to stop at the grocery store. I had promised the kids taco bowls for supper, and I didn't have all the ingredients, and I knew I would be in trouble if I didn't go back. So I dashed out to the store for what I hoped would be a quick trip. Rather quickly, I noticed that the store had several large groups of people, possibly Caribbean American, throughout the grocery store. When I walked in, there were several people that were already at the registers, and as I darted around gathering all of my ingredients, I noticed several other groups of people scattered throughout the store. At that point, I'm not really sure that I noticed anything out of the ordinary, but something must have piqued my curiosity, because I remember thinking, today must really be the day for family shopping. At another point, I thought, this must be preparation for a very long vacation because the cart was very full. As I was walking out of the store, I saw a refurbished school bus that was parked right in the loading zone by the door. Next to the door of the bus, there were several people with overloaded grocery carts that they were unloading and loading onto the bus. I noticed case after case of bottled water that was being handed off from one person to another. Several of those people that were loading the bus were the people that I had noticed in the grocery store. I thought about how warm it was on that day and how hot they must be. I noticed that all of the bus windows were down, so I assumed that meant no air conditioning. Inside the bus, it was packed with people. And I distinctly remembered thinking, even at that point, this is really going to be a long vacation. I wonder where they're going. And without air conditioning on that bus, they're really going to need those cases of water. And as I crossed in front of the bus on the way to my car, my brain finally woke up, and I realized, hold on a second. There is no way that anyone would charter this broken down bus for a huge family vacation. So now I was really curious. So I turned around to look to see if I could find a logo or some kind of identifying information on the side of the bus. There was only a simple sign on the driver's side window that simply read, "Leased by YCO and Associates." So as soon as I got to my car, relied on my technology, I did a little Google search. The first hit for that company cited them and their affiliate in a lawsuit alleging multiple abuses against migrant farm workers. And the reality hit me. This was no shopping trip for a family vacation. These are the migrant farm workers who slave away to fill our produce aisles, and yet they have to be bussed in to do their own grocery shopping. As I drove home, I wondered, is it possible that this was the same company that was involved in that legal action? That particular lawsuit occurred a couple of years ago. Are those types of abuses still happening to people? They were definitely stocking up with their groceries. How often do they even bring them to the grocery store? Here I am, hopping in my car at the last minute, whenever the mood strikes me or whenever I forget something that I need. And yet I'm not even sure how often they're allowed to go shop. And yet, had it not been for the big broken down bus that was parked right in my path, I probably would not have given any of it a second thought. I probably would have simply continued about my evening, grateful for the fresh lettuce that was on my salad. But as the week went on and the more that I thought about it, the more questions I have, and I found that I couldn't leave it alone. My compassion for another had been stirred up. And as James reminds us today, faith by itself, if it has no works, is dead. Therefore, to simply see a problem is not enough. I must seek to understand it better, and then I must take action. So did you know that between 1 and 3 million migrant farm workers leave their homes every year to plant, cultivate, harvest, and pack the fruits and vegetables and nuts that we find in our grocery stores in the United States? Some of the migrant farm workers do reside in the United States, but many come from Mexico, Jamaica, Haiti, Guatemala, Honduras, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic, looking for the American dream. 52 out of every 100 are unauthorized workers with no legal status in the United States. The prevalence of their undocumented status makes them highly susceptible to all sorts of injustice, including physical and sexual abuse, substandard or inadequate housing, pesticide violations, exclusions from labor laws, and inferior education and health care for their children. 61% of the migrant farm workers' income falls below the poverty level. Their workday begins before the sun comes up and often extends beyond dark. The median income is about $7,500 a year. Migrant farm workers are sometimes referred to as our nation's invisible population. I could go on, but instead I will leave you with the dilemma that has plagued me all week. First, we have to be awake enough to actually see our neighbors. No one should be invisible. Second, we have to be willing to understand our neighbors as they really are, not as we think that they are. And lastly, if we can, we really better be willing to do something about it. In this way, we have hope that someday, with enough practice, we might actually get really good at loving our neighbors as ourselves. Amen.